if you were a parent who at the end of a good day find yourself looking back and still feeling like you haven't been good enough as a parent, if what stands out for you are the things that you've got wrong, say, then this video is for you. Now, you could be the same parent on a bad day, or a different parent looking back and thinking, I can definitely point to things I did wrong today, I got wrong. Maybe you lost your patience, said something you regretted, lashed out verbally, even physically, genuinely aware that you hurt the feelings or left a child feeling deeply misunderstood, then this video is also for you. What I'm going to talk about is something that comes up for most, if not all, the parents that we work with in the Lighthouse program, and that is this sense of being a failure as a parent, guilt as a parent. And I want to explore just for a few minutes where this might come from in us as parents, and think a little bit about how we understand that, at least. Okay. So look, as parents, we're highly self-critical, and we want our children to be happy. We very much want the best for our children. Most of us, if not all of us as parents, will have experiences of being parented that we don't want to repeat with our own children. And we'll have set standards for ourselves. It may have happened for you, it certainly has happened for me, where I think, gosh, the one thing I didn't want to do was sound just like my mother or just like my father. And the words that came out of my mouth were exactly the same. Yeah. So sometimes we find ourselves repeating behaviours that we ourselves detested or struggled with as children growing up. So, yeah, sometimes you look back at the day and say, I shouldn't have shouted, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do something else? Why didn't I think of saying this? And worst of all, maybe I'm just like my mother or my father or whoever it was that I least want to be like as a parent, the one who I don't want to repeat their behaviours. So why do we end up feeling guilty? Well, there are a few things for us to think about. One is this selective attention, our mind's capacity to attend to single types of information. When my partner and I were having our first baby, I realised that there seemed to be a lot of pregnant women around. After we had that baby, there seemed to be a lot of parents around with buggies. And it was really only when we were having our second baby that I spotted that there was pregnant women again out in the world. And I think what was happening was my new status as an expectant father meant I was really on the lookout for other expectant parents or women, and it meant that I finally saw what was probably there all the time. There's probably no more or no less pregnant women at any point walking the streets of Oxford, but nonetheless at particular times in my life they will stand out or have stood out or leapt out at me. And it is a really interesting thing. And again, it occurs for many, if not all, of the parents we work with. is how interesting it is that when someone says something critical about us, how deeply that can penetrate and how well we might remember it and how powerful that can be. When someone praises us or acknowledges something of value in us, actually that can be harder to hold on to and to really allow to penetrate in the same way. So sometimes we give certain pieces of information greater power to impact us. And it does seem to be that critical information is often taken in or heard internally as more powerful than positive praise. And this goes to when we're even speaking to ourselves, it seems. Another factor that influences, I think, how we end up feeling guilty, and this one I think is the most important, so if there's one thing from this video I hope people will come away with is some response to the next couple of minutes that I'm going to talk about this phenomenon. And it's, you know, in a way it's very simple, but actually children suffer. Life is difficult. It's not straightforward and easy. It's actually full of a lot of frustration. And when you're growing and developing as infants and toddlers, young children are all the time, there's countless moments when they are encountering the limitations of their bodies, of their minds. They're flooded with emotions. They feel very intensely the passionate love for you as a parent, passionate hatred at times for what's happening in their life, whether that's for a person or for a sibling, for an experience, and in moments of discovering that they can't do something they desperately want to, there can be tremendous frustration, or they can't have what they feel they need in that moment. It can be deeply upsetting. We as parents, of course, are very strongly linked, bonded with our children, and we can feel empathically their pain as they feel it. In fact, the younger the child, the more they will communicate their distress, pain, frustration in a way that creates a like feeling in us, a similar feeling. It evokes that feeling in us, it resonates in us. And so across the day, as we look after our children, we will have, I would use the phrase hoovered up. We will have hoovered up the hurts of every scrape and scratch they suffered, maybe every moment of sadness and frustration, moments of helplessness and impotent fury, jealous attacks on siblings. We'll have felt something in response to all of these. The everyday randomness of being alive means children suffer upset, distress, and a whole range of feelings most days, sometimes many times in one day. And we as parents are there to feel this alongside them. So if at the end of the day you are feeling pretty full up and pretty rubbish, if you're feeling a collection of those feelings of frustration, helplessness, feeling like you haven't known how to fix it, you haven't been able to provide the right solution at the right moment, just like your child has struggled to find a way through to do the drawing in the way that they wanted, then it probably indicates you've done a really good job at hoovering up your children's distress. And that is more than good enough as a parent. Sometimes all we can do is trust that if we can get to sleep overnight some of this emotional turbulence will be processed in the night, in our dreams and in our sleep, that will allow for the beginning of a new day the next day. So I said at the beginning of this video that if, as a parent, you're looking back on a good day and finding yourself still feeling that you've somehow failed as a parent or feeling guilty as a parent, then this video is for you. But I also said that if you are that parent who on a particular night, or maybe many nights, find that you look back and say, no, I definitely got that wrong. I have upset my child, I have hurt my child, I was unable to keep my illuminating beam on or to switch it on for my child at a time when they needed it, and you've caused hurt, then this video is also for you. And what I want to emphasize here, and we will come back to this over the weeks ahead, is the fundamental importance of the skill of repair when we've got things wrong. And this is so important because it's not just about us developing that skill. We also want our children to learn that skill. If that makes sense, yeah. In one of our groups, there was a mum rolling a cigarette before a break, and she commented on how her toddler had watched her so carefully that she had learned how to mimic the act of trying to roll a piece of paper. And she was saying, I need to be careful what I teach her. And then we were talking later about this very topic of how do you model to your child that when you get it wrong, you can repair, and it's okay to be forgiving of yourself and to model forgiveness. You know, really acknowledge, I got that wrong. Apologize, I'm sorry. Acknowledge the feelings that you will have caused. I left you feeling misunderstood, or check out what did it feel like to be misunderstood by me? What were you left feeling? Really sorry about that. But look, I want to try and fix it. I want us to find a way back to connecting together. That's what's crucially important. And in order to do that, you have to allow for some self-forgiveness. And this mum was really struggling with the idea that she could forgive herself for things she got wrong in response to her children. And we went back to, but hang on, if your daughter will mimic your rolling of a cigarette, although you don't intend for her ever to smoke, it's going to be important for her to be able to also mimic your capacity to forgive yourself. Otherwise, how is she going to learn? And for that mum, and we've noticed this for other parents as well, that gave her permission to be a bit kinder to herself and work with more confidence towards repair. So I hope that makes some sense, and I'd be very interested in people's responses to what we've talked about so far. Now, you might be able to point to specific moments where you stayed patient for ages and then you lost it and you said something you regretted or even did something you regretted. Then what's important is repair. And it's never too late to repair relationships, no matter how old a child. And important to model some self-forgiveness so that your child also learns how to repair and forgive self and other. Okay. Look forward to your responses.